This is RAM. And these are two 8GB sticks that I had installed on my PC before. And recently I've got this. Two sticks of 32GB. And for those who are watching my Twitter already knew that. And I got this RAM just because 16GB just aren't enough for me. Especially when I have Premiere Pro, browser, YouTube Music app, Minecraft and Photoshop open. So I have 64GB of RAM now. And while I was thinking on my next video idea, I got it. Many people recommend allocating more RAM to avoid performance problems in Minecraft. So I had 4GB of RAM allocated in my normal Minecraft, but what if I allocate more? Will it boost my FPS, chunk generation and overall performance? Let's find out. In this short video, I'm gonna test from 512MB of RAM up to 64GB on the latest version with no mods. Okay, so before I start burning my RAM, I'll show you my settings for Minecraft. 12 chunks render distance and simulation, no FPS limit, same seed, sub to nickname hidden, and fast graphics. And I'm gonna test new chunk generation, FPS, world creation and if more RAM affects overall performance. Okay, so let's start off with the 512MB and it's almost playable. The world generation took around 17 seconds and my FPS couldn't get higher than 170. And also the game was stuttering like crazy, especially when I generated new chunks. And it's because of the RAM usage that was almost 100% all of the time. And also when I tried to teleport to a location where I wanted to test the chunk generation, my Minecraft just crashed. Let's move on to the standard 2GB which is allocated by default in Minecraft. Starting off with the world generation that took 15 seconds which is faster than 17 on 500MB. Okay, so I teleported to the 10,000 coordinates to generate completely new chunks and it took me only 17 seconds to generate the territory around me. After that I flew forwards to see how my FPS will be when I fly and actively generate new chunks. And well, 2GB also aren't enough for Minecraft, because if we look at the RAM usage, we can see that it stutters from 50 to 90%, but my FPS stays at a stable 50 to 120. Okay, but now let's move on to the big numbers. 8GB of RAM, and the world took also 15 seconds to generate. And to generate completely new chunks, it took the same 17 seconds. And there was pretty much no difference in FPS or chunk generation at all. So I decided to change my render distance to 32 chunks, and from now on I would create only amplified worlds, so Minecraft says that those worlds are only for beefy computers. And this is where the real stress test has begun. So the amplified world also took around 15 seconds to generate, and oh my gosh, the game was so stuttery and unplayable. So with 8GB allocated, the territory around me took only 1 minute and 40 seconds to generate. And my game was stuttering from around 10 to 30 FPS. Oh, and also my RAM usage was around 4 to 5GB most of the time. But let's try to allocate 16GB and see if it gives me faster load speeds or in better performance. And well, actually no. The world generation took around 15 seconds and to generate territory around me took 1 minute and 20 seconds, which is a little faster than with 8GB, but everything else was pretty much the same as with 8GB of RAM, so I think I probably should stop my test at this point because my Minecraft just doesn't use all of the RAM that was allocated. It only used like 4 to 5GB, and my FPS was around the same amount as with 8GB, but I think it was a stress test for my CPU rather than my RAM, because my CPU was loaded at 100% most of the time. So does RAM affect overall performance in Minecraft? Well, kinda. If you are playing at a decent render distance, then I would recommend allocating at least 3GB of RAM, otherwise your Minecraft will just stutter like crazy while generating new chunks, because 2GB by default just aren't enough. But how much RAM do you really need for perfect gameplay? Well, the maximum amount that my Minecraft was using was only 5GB. So if you have enough memory and you want a gameplay without stutters while playing at a high render distance, then you can allocate 5GB. But allocating more is just useless because Minecraft just won't use that much, except you have big mod packs with over 100 mods or so. So yeah, that's it. I hope I made everything clear with RAM so far, and my conclusion is do not buy more RAM for Minecraft. Subscribe.